side not very symmetrical, but you get the idea. So here's our midline. Well, in the cat, instead of one trapezius muscle, the cats have three. They have what's called the clavotrapezius, and clavo is short for what?
Clavicle.
Clavicle. Very good. They have the clavotrapezius. They have the acromiotrapezius. And this is, again, because they are quadrupeds, they have to bear weight on their upper extremities. So their shoulder muscles have to be designed a little differently than ours. And the spinotrapezius. So cats, just like cats, have 5 bellies of their pectoralis group. Instead of 2, we have a pec major and a pec minor. They have a, you know, the 5. Instead of one trapezius, they have a CAS. A clavotrapezius, and a acromiotrapezius, and a spinotrapezius. Okay, so the idea is, in cats, cats have a very, very tiny little clavicle. And by the way, I meant to ask Robert there's that. So, I tell you what, I got to show you this, because I want you to feel the cat's clavicle. So, tell you what, this is a little dangerous, but I'm going to have you be my spotter. You're going to hold it. You're going to hold this chair. You're going to come hold the chair. Ooh, maybe I can't do it. I was going to say, can I reach the base? Well, can you reach the base of the cat? He's on a board base, but you have to have a little. Okay, no, get up on the chair. Oh, he did it. Okay, so we'll spot the chair. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, good. Okay, well, good. I needed this. Okay, so folks, if you gather around, do you see the cat's little clavicle here? It's said to be rudimentary. In other words, it's almost just not even there. You see the cat's little clavicle? Yeah. Now, the upper part of their trapezius goes from their external occipital protuberance of their skull, which is a landmark we already know, and comes down towards the clavicle and inserts on the clavicle. It's called the clavotrapezius. Then from there, we know where the spine of the acromion process of their scapula is, where their spine is oriented vertically. You know, ours is horizontally, but see where the spine of their scapula is. And we know where the acromion process is. See how their acromion process is sort of elevated up? Ours is at the end of the spine, but theirs is that little thing elevated sort of towards the back. So then they have the acromiotrapezius, goes kind of over the scapula, and then the spinotrapezius, as the name implies, inserts onto the spinous processes of the vertebra. So I want to show you on this little cat, this guy, where these 3 bellies are. And I didn't even go up high enough on, but see how the fascicles of these muscles are running sort of this way, and they're going down to the clavicle, which is kind of hidden right in there. We'll be able to feel it as soon as we sever the insertions of a couple of other muscles. So this area right here is the clavotrapezius, and then the spinotrapezius is, and you can see how far from the midline acromiotrapezius is this belly right in through here, and it's going to kind of insert over onto the scapula. And then the spinotrapezius is this one. This is why we reflected this muscle kind of halfway down the back, and I'm not even quite far enough. You'll see a real pretty point. Are you visualizing the lateral border? And with a forceps, I can just maybe get under the lateral border of the spinotrapezius right in through here. And I'll guess I better use the scissors. Oh, there's one. Either one. So here's this. It sits on top of the latissimus dorsi. So if I free up the spinotrapezius, you can see, if I were to free, oh, I should have draped the face. I'm sorry, I forget to do that. So I'm going to go along the entire lateral boundary of this spinotrapezius, and it comes to a point, right, and you're hearing the spinous processes there, and I can elevate that belly, and underneath it is the latissimus dorsi. Yeah, so spinotrapezius, acromiotrapezius, and then clavotrapezius. Now remember clavotrapezius, because the deltoid, this shoulder muscle that gives the roundness to the shoulder, in the cat, it's not one deltoid muscle as it is in the human. There's two. There's what's called the acromiodeltoid, and I'm going to kind of try to show you this as if it gets a little drier. I'll just borrow one of these. The cat has the acromiodeltoid. For those of you who, gather as close as you can, kind of like a little heart, the two bellies of the cat's deltoid. It's called the acromiodeltoid. Sort of picks up where the acromiotrapezius left off. See, this is just acromiotrapezius. I can actually get under it. This is the acromiotrapezius. This was the spinotrapezius. What was this first part? Clavicle. Very good. So now, lateral to the acromiotrapezius, see, and this is overlain by a blue vein that's maybe a little distracting, but do you see this belly of the muscle right here that comes to a point? Okay, where does our deltoid insert, folks? We never learned the deltoid tuberosity on the humerus, but it's that lateral kind of ridge. It's more of a ridge than a big round thing. But so there's the acromiodeltoid, and then do you see this little belly back here? That picks up where the spinotrapezius fascicles were running. There's the spinodeltoid. So the cat has both an acromiodeltoid and a spinodeltoid, and they make kind of this beautiful little heart, like an Art Nouveau kind of heart, where one of the, pillows of the heart is a little bit longer. This one's a little bit longer. But they both insert onto the deltoid tuberosity of the cat's humerus. So I'd love for us to get the traps and the deltoid, and then this is where we're going eventually, and we won't have time today, and I've already kind of cut the boundary. Anterior to the deltoid muscle is the clavobrachialis, which from the clavotrapezius, and then there's the continuation of that down into the shoulder is the muscle in the cat that's kind of medial, arm, and I've freed both its anterior and its lateral border, and I just want to show you where we're going with this. Eventually we're just going to cut the clavobrachialis, as the name would tell you. It would start at the clavicle. It starts just where the clavotrapezius ends on the clavicle, going this direction. Then the clavobrachialis picks up to go down to the humerus. We're going to actually cut the insertion of the clavobrachialis muscle so that we can elevate it up. And folks, at that point, we're into the deep arm. We're actually into the arm, and that's actually, I hate it when it's a nerve, but I think it's just connective tissue. So now, and this was actually part of the pectoantebrachialis. I guess we'll elevate that too. We'll do a little better job in your cat than I'm doing. So now, what you're seeing is deep to the clavobrachialis, there's a brachialis muscle. Deep to the clavobrachialis, which is the continuation of the clavotrapezius. They're different muscles. And once you cut that this brachialis muscle comes from the chest wall kind of around and inserts all along a long line on the humerus. So I'm going to cut all along that long line. We're just going to actually, you either cut a belly of a muscle at its insertion or its origin, or you cut mid-belly and reflect both origin and insertion. And once you do that, folks, and of course, I'm going to get this connective tissue where this vein is to just get this out of the way. Then, and unfortunately we won't be able to keep much of that vein, but cut that up this way. See, that's just in the fascial plane above the muscle. Then you're going to be able to see deep into you're seeing the two heads of the biceps brachii, the medial head being a lot larger than the lateral head. And then posteriorly, all you have are the triceps brachii. So once we do the few muscles of the posterior, we come around the lateral shoulder, and then we're in the arm. So ideally, I would love to do all that I just did. We'll see on your cats, and then for Monday, we'll do the forearm. So, okay. So, like I said, I would love to do the forearm today, but we can't. So, okay.